If you were one of the women that reached out to me for the one-on-one containers, our July round is full and I'm so excited. We're getting started tomorrow, so big shifts are happening. And you can gladly reserve your spots for September. I have 3 spots open. Ooh, like my throat, my voice is doing things. So yeah, you can reserve one of the spots for the September round if you feel the call to work with me, if you feel the call to go deep in an intimate space. I got you. I got you. So let's get started. And let's start with speaking our truth and what that really means. And there was a comment that I found last week. It popped up and it made me think of that. And I don't know who it was. And again, like, I'm sorry if you're listening and I'm using you as an example. It's beautiful. And honestly, I'm going to untangle some stuff for you probably in this video. So this beautiful woman commented under my video. I think it was, I'm not sure. I think it was the frequency fence video in which I went quite deep into limiting belief systems. And she said something like, a belief is just a thought you choose to keep thinking. And like, whoa, that sounds beautiful, right? And this is probably very true. But it wasn't her truth. And you could feel that. That might be universal truth, but for that video and that moment, it didn't really mean anything. Like, it didn't really hone in on the topic, and you could just feel this was maybe something she heard somewhere, and it didn't apply. And now, we've all done this. I still do this at times. We're all doing this. So this is not like, look at her. No, we're all doing this. What I'm saying is it can be felt when we say something or type something that is not in resonance with our truth. Everyone who is in their truth can feel it, and they can immediately detect it in a way where they know you haven't tapped into your actual voice yet. And even the people who may be not in tune with their truth, they're just not going to resonate with you. They might not be able to like package it and be aware why they don't resonate with you. They're just not going to resonate with you. There is no magnetism, right? Anytime we say anything that is out of resonance with our true soul voice, it has no impact. It has no magnetism. So, and again, love her. That comment was just something that sparked that thought of like, oh yeah, it's wise words, but they don't do anything for my body. Like, they don't hit home in any way. And that's why, as we are moving towards deeper energetic impact on this realm, embodying the Empress means embodying sovereign creatorship, sovereign creatorhood. If we do not know how to utilize or even tap into our true voice, there is no impact we have on this reality. So this topic is freaking, again, it's wild. Because once you get it, there will be a shift and you will never go back. And you will step into a new embodiment and a new way of being once you've found and remembered the resonance of your true voice. So only when we speak from our truth can we actually untangle subconscious beliefs or anything on the subconscious for anyone, right? It's the moments when we go, ooh, shit, that hit deep. Like, ooh, I feel that. Like, these moments are only possible because the person that is speaking to you or that you're listening to is speaking with their truth, and they're speaking with the resonance of their soul's voice. That's the only way that we can ever untangle something on a subconscious level for anyone. We can say the wisest shit. Like, there are so many women that, they can quote the Bhagavad Gita up and down. But you're like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. And why is that? Because yes, they might be sharing truth, because the Bhagavad Gita is filled with truth of existence and eternal truth, or any other whatever quote you find. But it's not in resonance with their true soul voice. They're not speaking from the depth of their being. And what they're sharing isn't fully embodied yet. It hasn't landed in their root, in their sacral. They're speaking from intellect. And you can feel that. The Empress doesn't fake. Fake doesn't work for Empress energetics, because fake is not going to make an actual energetic impact on the field. It's meaningless. So, when I speak about speaking your truth, what does that mean to me? And the most refined answer I could come up with, or that came to me at this point, is truth is the vibrational resonance in your voice that is a match to your core soul's frequency translated in sound. Right? Truth is the vibrational resonance of your core soul frequency translated in sound. That is truth. And again, it doesn't matter what words you're saying. You can open your mouth just to ask someone for a cup of tea, and that vibration of truth will change the fabric of existence. Literally, scientifically. And you can say the wisest things, but if your voice, if the vibration in your voice isn't the vibration of your soul, your core essence, the wisest words become absolutely meaningless if they come from an artificial place. And anything that isn't in the vibration of your soul is an artificial place. It's disconnected from your truth, soul, essence. And we spoke about these heavy hitters. And one of the quotes that hit me the deepest, like the moment I heard it, my life changed. Eloquence is never truth, and truth is never eloquent. Lao Tzu, my man, whoever you are, fuck. Like, when I heard that, like, I was like, oh my God. My whole life shifted in that moment. Because the way I grew up, and Germany is a country, I don't know, it's probably different for a lot of cultures, but the German culture is very, very focused on intellect, is very focused on eloquence. Like, anytime you're in Germany and you're around German, like, academics, and in Germany, like, almost everyone is an academic, like, you will have a battle of the mind, a battle of intellect. Like, who has the, like, smoothest comeback? Like, who is the most eloquent? Who has the most knowledge, like who has the most cynical sarcasm at hand at all times. Like it's just very heady, very heady. So I grew up quite differently. Like I grew up with a single mom that worked in a German Gasthof, right? In a pub where men that work with their hands would drink their beers. So I grew up in very different surroundings. I grew up around immigrants. So eloquence wasn't on the top of our list. It was realness. It was raw. And so the way I expressed myself was, I swear a lot. I have a beautiful, great smelling mouth, but I use foul words sometimes. Like that's just how I grew up. And of course, my surroundings celebrated me for that. But in university, in school, or doctor's offices, anytime I was confronted with that like German technocratic, almost a little bit. I love my Germans. They're hyper intelligent. But anytime I was confronted with that, I felt dumb. And I felt so like peasantly. I felt so stupid. And it's because what I had was precious, and what I had was gold, because what I had was truth. Yeah, every time I spoke with truth. Not every time, because of course I had my overlays and shit like that. But like my essence was more of a let's cut the BS and let's go straight to the point. And I can cut through BS with one sentence, like one easy, straight to the point phrase. But that wasn't acknowledged in the surrounding I grew up in. So when that sentence came to me, it hit so deep because it brought back my truth. It made me realize that this was something I always had, but I thought I had to adapt. I thought I had to step out of my soul realm and into the realm of the mental, of the intellectual, to be able to meet someone, to be able to worthy, and that isn't true. I carried the greatest gift of existence, which is I was in tune with my truth and what that really means. Now, I lost it over time, but I found it again. And so, that quote, that was one of these heavy hitters for me because it was truth and it resonated with my truth. So another phrase, another quote is, I create as I speak. Like a lot of people speak about the power of the words. It's in every religion. You know, in the beginning, there was the word. Even abracadabra comes from Hebrew. It means I create as I speak. So we're getting more familiar with the power of our words. And yet, that is only true if you know how to tune into the true resonance of your soul's voice. Otherwise, if you're speaking from a disconnected artificial space, your words don't impact anything in this reality. Your words have very little impact unless they are connected to your true soul's vibration, and you can hear it and it reverberates as you speak. And that is very rightfully so. Because if our words were really that impactful, we'd have a pretty chaotic environment at this point, because our consciousness is not at a point where it's safe for most of the people to create as they speak. So it's almost like a safeguard for people that are not aware of the power of their voice. And so the people who aren't aware of the power of their voice, they will speak from a disconnected space anyway. And that disconnected artificial voice isn't able to impact reality on a quantum level. So when we say these things, I create as I speak, or my words create reality, well, let's get a level deeper. And the actual truth is the amount of soul encapsulated in your voice is what actually creates reality, not the words in itself. So you can speak whatever word. If there's a disconnect, if your voice is not your womb voice, isn't connected to that space, you will have zero impact or very, very little impact on this reality, on the field. So what is our true voice? You can hear it. Like you can hear it right now in my voice. I'm in my body. And to be able to touch my true voice, I have to be in my womb. There has to be an open channel from my womb to my throat to be able to speak with a resonance and have that resonance impact my field. So our true voice reverberates in our body. Like you can feel the vibration. I can feel it in my body right now. And it's the voice that comes without the baggage of personality. Like, yes, I'm Melissa, and yes, I have different voices, and yes, these voices are valid and beautiful. But this voice right now doesn't have much personality. The deeper you're connected to your truth, the less baggage of personalities can be heard in your voice. And this voice, or womb voice, as I call it also, is what literally creates an electromagnetic charge in your field that is palpable. Like this is not symbolic. This is actually happening. Like you are literally creating a magnetic charge in your field with your voice. So right now it's palpable. Like I can feel the magnetism in my field. This magnetism changes my brain waves. I can feel it. It's impacting my brain. Like there are things harmonizing and rearranging in my body as I speak right now, and I can feel that. It's a palpable experience. It's not just words. So now think about it like this. If our field is magnetically charged, we are literally attractive. Like attractive on a scientific level. Because when our field is magnetically charged, this now will impact the structure of reality. It will impact the resonance field, and it will make it so that currents flow to us because the magnetic quality of our field is attracting the currents, whether that is joy, abundance, or on a zoomed out geometric level, it's just energy. But that energy, of course, translates into matter. So we are becoming attractive and magnetic through the power of our voice, charging our field, magnetizing our field. And I'll think about it like even physical places like Sedona. Sedona is a vortex. And you will see that in the quality of people that feel drawn towards this place. There are only, I think, 12,000 people living in this town. But out of these 12,000 people, At least 50% are very influential people, extremely connected people, spiritual teachers, just phenomenal people. That's because Sedona has its vortex and its magnetism. And you'll find that in all kinds of places. You know, every city has their own vortex. And so you are becoming that vortex that will attract a frequency that is corresponding to your magnetic charge. And that means as we speak from this natural voice, as we learn to detect the qualities of our natural voice, our experience will always be an abundant one. Because our divine blueprint is abundant. Nature is abundant. And when we express ourselves with our true voice, constantly charging our field with magnetism, we'll naturally experience this abundant flow. And so if you do not experience that in your life, chances are high that you're communicating from a very disconnected space, and that the voice you're using isn't yours, my dear. It's a voice you picked up along the way. It's a voice disconnected from your booty, from your body, from your womb. Sorry. So that is sorry. That just got me on a whole nother train of thought, man. From your booty. Yeah, probably your booty. Yeah. Your perineum. I guess it was a Freudian slip meant to happen. Damn, like, look at that. She came so freaking well prepared, man. So the Empress only speaks from truth. When you're in your Empress essence, it is impossible to speak lies or to speak from a place that is not connected to that honey-like texture of your body. Now, yes, depending on different surroundings, your voice will take on different qualities, but it's still connected to that core soul frequency, just comes in different expressions. And so the deeper we exist and speak from that womb voice and the vibration of our soul, the more awareness we have over the distortions of other people's voice. So the deeper I am home in my true voice, the easier it is for me to detect when someone isn't in their truth, when someone still carries distortions or conveys from a disconnected, distorted, artificial voice, when someone is lying, not maybe consciously lying, but they're overriding their truth with an artificial voice. So the more you're tuned into your truth, the easier it is to detect this in other people. And therefore, you already know, like, hey, whatever this conversation is, let's take it deeper, because we're not resonating in truth here. And our voice becomes almost like, and I don't know how to quite explain it, it's something that I feel, but it becomes this sonar radar scanning the field, like the bats that they send out the signal. Boop, 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 boop. Don't know how that sounds. Maybe it sounds totally different, but you get what I'm saying. And I feel like the same thing happens when we speak from our true voice. It's like almost my voice becomes this scanner, this sonar radar of the field that picks up any distortions or anything that isn't in truth, which is really, really interesting. So let's get even more technical here, because again, everything I'm saying here are energetics that are backed up by actual science. So while for me, this was an energetic experience first, there is a scientific way to explain that. And so when we speak, we literally create the voice of our sound, the vibration of our sound, of our voice, creates a toroidal field, especially the vowels like A, O, U, Minasa, right? They create a toroidal field. And so now the deeper our voice resonates with our womb voice, our soul voice, the deeper the impact or the more powerful the torus shape is that we create. So let me just give you an example, and this is really cool. So I don't know if you guys know iPyramids, but my man and his buddy J-Dog, they created this together. So Jason makes these incredible, called donuts, torus fields, and Alexander and him like co-created this because this is filled with Yimingzi, which is glow in the dark. Just it's oof. Like you can find it only, I think, in the riverbed of Tibet or China, in that region, and it's a bioluminescent gem that Alexander the Great literally looked for. Like he went on a journey to find that stone, and it's in here. So this glows in the dark, and it's the frequency is just magnificent. But this is the torus. So this shape is what our voice creates. It creates this toroidal field. And so the toroidal field that the sound of our voice creates turns into scalar waves that literally permeate into the structure of existence and change and manipulate the field immediately. And the torus shape is basically a gateway that connects multiple dimensions and helps with the flow of information. Like it's a conduit for energy flow and information flow. So that's how that looks. Like if you check out toroidal field, the torus, read into it. But yeah, this is really, sorry. This is really fascinating that this is what our voice and the resonance of our true voice creates. So there is a scientific aspect to that, which to me is, I love when energetics is backed up by science. This is just incredible to me. Whew. So why did I get so technical, and why am I sharing this information? It's because 90%, and yes, I'm totally making this number up. I don't know how many percent, really. I don't have a study on this. But in my experience, around 90% of the women that I speak to, whether these are clients or just women that I meet in my surrounding, 90% of us do not speak from our soul's essence. Our voice does not encapsulate the frequency of our core. And so with that, we're conversating, we're communicating from a disconnected artificial space. That means we are missing out on the most powerful aspect of creation, or one of the most powerful aspects of creation. And so there is no creating your own reality without being in touch with the truth of your voice. And that's why I'm going so deep into this, so that we can shift that on a subconscious level and we can really embody that. And I don't want anyone to miss out on the potent ability to create, right? So, and I mean, there is, I need a sip, man. This is deep. Now, this is not a bad thing. Again, it's not a bad thing that our artificial voice cannot penetrate the quantum field. It's actually safeguarding us. Because again, if our words would truly create reality and we are not aware of the power of our words, and we're not even aware that we are like creator beings, there would be a shit ton of chaos. And yes, our world is quite chaotic, but this is where the beauty of our voice comes in. The more of us are connected to their soul voice, the more impact your field will have on the natural structure of reality. And so if every one of us creates this magnetic field filled with soul resonance and truth, the reality will rearrange itself to harmony. And so unless we speak with that truth, our voice, rightfully so, doesn't have much impact, and it shouldn't have. So this is actually safeguarding existence. So this is a beautiful tool, and it's a beautiful safeguard. So when we speak from a place that is disconnected from our soul, we're creating an artificial realm almost. We're creating an empty dimension. Our womb voice fills our field with frequencies that remind us of home. But that disconnected voice, that artificial voice, creates disconnection. Because usually when you speak, your voice is meant for your soul to find itself in the frequency of your voice. So when you speak, you naturally fill your field with home frequencies. So it's almost that when your field is filled with the magnetism of your soul, it's almost like your oversoul can track you easier in the time-space continuum. I don't know how to explain that right, but it's almost like that field creates this GPS radar that is really strong. Like there's just a really strong connection at all times. And your voice, birthing your soul onto this existence, is this connection, from your oversoul or womb of creation, your universal home, your cosmic home, to this. And so there's a constant connection. When you speak from a disconnected place, you create an empty dimension. You create an artificial dimension. And so therefore, if you speak from that voice, the quality of your field will be one of chaos, will be one of disconnection, and will mirror you that life isn't safe. Because that distorted voice, that artificial voice that a lot of us communicate from, has no connection to our true womb frequency or true resonance. And I hope that makes sense. So if there is any anxiety in your field, if you feel anxiety, if you spoke from your true voice, anxiety isn't possible. because you're constantly immersed in the vibration of home, of safety, of eternal safety, the cosmic womb space. But that disconnected voice creates an environment in which your soul cannot find itself in. So you're constantly sending, with your voice, you're sending out signals to your body that, yo, we're lost in space. We're not safe. We're not connected to the mothership, or we're not connected to our oversoul. We're not connected to the cosmic womb. We're hanging out in some distorted, empty dimension, in some distorted, artificially created energy field. So that will cause a certain anxiety in your body if we look at it really on a deep level, like if you want to speak about anxiety. And so the people that speak from that very artificial voice, I can guarantee you, they're not tapped into their tranquil nature. They don't know how to really go deep. And this is also something that we can be aware of in music. Like certain voices, when they're disconnected and artificial, meaning you're not in your body, you're not connected to your womb. It's maybe like a high-pitched voice, or it's a completely just disconnected voice. We create this artificial purgatory, and you can hear that in music. Like so many mainstream artists sing from a distorted voice. And when you listen to the music, it's just like it creates anxiety. You can't listen to it. And we can even follow that progression a lot of times. Like when you start off and there's an artist, and for me, like I love R&B. Like let's go back to Aaliyah and her real shit. Let me know. Who remembers that? Like when you listen to her voice, she was an angel. And her voice was just resonance of truth, and it wrapped you in this blanket. Like Aaliyah did something to our subconscious because she was in connection with her truth. And a lot of artists have that when they start off. That's why I love R&B. I'm just like it's real. There's so much realness in that. I love soul, R&B. That's just my jam. Fucking Donald Jones, man. Like 90s R&B is just my jam. Because, and again, there are artists that still have that and still have these qualities. Many artists. But you can also oftentimes see the progression that when this artist is kind of like low key and still indie, they still have that quality in their voice. It does something to you. You get goosebumps. It changes something in you. But the more mainstream they get, the more disconnected they get from their actual message, their actual truth. And so, yeah, they have great beats and it might be super upbeat, but fucking core is missing. I had that with Miguel. Like, listen to Miguel's first songs, man. Strawberry Amazing. All I Want Is You. Like, if you listen to his live versions of Strawberry Amazing or All I Want Is You, like, damn. Like, my soul recognized this man. I'm like, your family. Like, you make me feel like I'm home. It's because he was in resonance with his truth. Now I listen to his new shit and I'm like, dude, what happened to you, man? First of all, how could you let Nazanin go? She's a fucking, like, she's a rider. Like, what the fuck happened? Like, you had to F some groupies? Like, whatever. Like, I'm getting really passionate about this thing. It's because I saw it. Like, I saw it. Like, I saw him picking up groupies at a concert. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? You have a wife at home. Like a true rider. Whatever. Sorry. But what I'm saying is, you could feel it in his voice, and you can see that in many artists. So I went on a whole tangent right now. Shout out to my real ones out there who keep their true voice. So now, why is this happening? Because if this is our real voice, if this is our true nature, how come that it's so hard for us to get back to that voice? How come that we communicate in these artificial sound waves? What is that? Which makes our experience almost robotic. And there are plenty of reasons for that. And one of them is collective trauma. So if our parents spoke from a place that wasn't in resonance with their soul, if our whole surrounding communicates from that very throaty voice disconnected from the body, we as children, we emulate that. Like, you remember as a kid, you would emulate everything. I would emulate voices. I would emulate languages. So we start to emulate this. We start to emulate the artificial frequencies that we hear in our surrounding. So that is one thing. So in an early age, we start to adapt different voices. Like, I see 7-year-olds sometimes, and they speak with this voice, and it's just super artificial, and I don't even know who's communicating with me because it's not a child. It's some weird artificial intelligence, and it creeps me the fuck out, right? Like, you have that sometimes. Like, even with children, where I'm like, ooh, you must have gotten that from your parents. Like, this is not you, my sweetness. I can't even, like, feel the essence of a child anymore. That is trauma. Now, the next one is we're being trained out of the truth of the moment as children in society. Let me just say, for authentic. You see that? That's the only way we do around here. Authentic. So, what was that just now? Sorry. So what I was going to say is that we are being trained, or we have been trained out of the truth of our moment. And let's just take school as an example, right? You as a child, as, I don't know, a 6-year-old, you go into first grade. I don't know if that applies to the US, but in Germany, if you're 6, you're going into first grade, you start with elementary school. And the whole surrounding is new. And all the kids are new, and maybe your truth of the moment is, wow, I feel shy, I feel nervous, I want to go back to mommy, I am scared. But then the teacher asks you something. And the teacher probably, I mean, if she's a good teacher, but, you know, like, we probably grew up with teachers that didn't ask, how does your body feel right now? But the teacher asked, well, what is 2 + 2? And while the truth of the moment would have been, I'm afraid right now, and I don't feel like speaking, and I am shy, and I also feel sad. That would have been the truth of your body, probably. But that truth of the body wasn't appropriate to express. So your true voice was with that truth of your body, but you had to develop a voice that could override what your body was feeling and function. So while the truth was maybe, I'm shy, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I don't want to speak, the artificial voice came in and was like, it's 4. 2 + 2 is 4, right? And so this happened throughout our life. Like, I can't tell you how many times my body was probably freaking nervous, but a voice came in, an artificial voice came in that was maybe extra loud, extra extrovert, super funny, always here, always there, always entertaining the space. That was not my true voice. And so for a lot of us, this happened over and over again. Like, in meetings or at work or in university, we had to learn how to override what our body was really feeling in order to survive. Like in a meeting, you're being asked something. The truth of your body is maybe, wow, I feel so freaking inadequate. I feel stupid. I am intimidated. Whatever your body feels, right? There's maybe your heart is beating fast, or your stomach is turning, or your heart is closing off. But you had to present something, or you had to establish yourself amongst these 20 other people. So an artificial voice came in. And the more and more and more we do that, we become a conglomerate of artificial voices, and with that, artificial personalities. Because what actually happens in these moments is we are fragmenting our own being. We are fragmenting our own soul. Because our soul cannot communicate like that. To be able to hear the resonance and vibration of our soul in our voice, we have to speak the truth of the moment. We have to be connected to the body. And if we choose to override that, our soul is like, okay, yeah, you can still use your mouth hole, but there's not going to be any resonance of soul in that. There's not going to be any powerful vibration in that. So that's the compromise we made. And again, it was our way of surviving. It's how life was set up. So we created then all these different voices that all have their own personality connected to them, disconnected from our actual soul voice. So now it's almost like we built so many frequencies on top of that core soul essence that now our voice is accessing these overlay frequencies and these overlay voices rather than this, the core. And this is due to trauma, right? So when we are doing that, we're basically letting our body like be. We're basically like, hey, I'm going to abandon you right now. Hey, okay, you have all of these needs and you want to express yourself in this way, but I'm going to abandon you right now. Again, this wasn't mean. This was just our way of surviving in this way the collective was set up at that point in time. So now your body and that core frequency is basically left alone. And for years, you've only been addressing these frequencies on top of it. Now your body might be filled with a lot of trauma, a lot of unacknowledged, untouched pain. And when we access our true voice, we can only access that voice when our throat is open, when our heart is open, when our womb is open, when our pussy is open. Only then, like the whole channel is open. So we're deeply feeling our body. Now, if there is a lot of unresolved pain in our body, if we abandon our body for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, or however long, you're not going to be able to touch that truest frequency of your voice in a moment's notice. So there will be some work in order to release all artificial frequencies in your voice and in your sound. So let's get into the examples for how do we detect the fake voice. And so I'm going to give you a couple examples so you can see if that applies. One of them is, like I said, it's usually more of a high-pitched, like it's a different quality of voice. There's less resonance in this. You feel that? Like there were moments in my life where anytime I would go and order something at a bakery or whatever, hi, could I have this? I'm like, what the fuck? And my friends looked at me and they like, it was this whole running gag because I did that a lot. Like I wanted to be like extra sweet or something. So I stepped into this really high-pitched voice. I mean, it was German. So, hey, kann ich jetzt Brötchen da drüben haben? And my friends were like, yo, what was that? And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even notice. And them just making fun of me constantly was basically a reminder of like, yo, come back to your soul. Like, what was that just now? So good thing I had a lot of real ones around me. And so it's a throaty voice. Or it's a voice that is just totally disconnected from your actual being. You can, you can sense the quality. Your voice is probably deeper than you think. So go at least 3 octaves deeper, and that might feel really uncomfortable if you're not used to that frequency anymore. So in the beginning, you're like, whoa, what is that? Yeah. Your voice has range, my love. Your voice is deep. Your voice fills the room with a vibration. So a good way for you to detect that is if you record a voice memo or you re-listen back to a WhatsApp message, or someone is watching a video and you're in it and you cringe. And we've all had that. Like back then, if anyone replayed my voice memos, I was like, no, like don't, like just turn that shit off because I don't know who that is. If your voice replayed makes you cringe, it's not your voice, because your true voice will feel like freaking honey for your system. When you listen to your real voice or re-listen to it, it will feel soothing. It will feel like home. So if you listen to a WhatsApp memo or whatever and it makes you cringe, it's because you don't recognize your real voice in that. It's because your soul is like, that's me? Well, that doesn't sound like me, because it isn't you. So that's a beautiful way to detect. You also will find that in surroundings. Like, scan your surroundings for that artificial voice. And oh my God, like we had some dinner the other day and we had these 2 ladies next to us. And it was just freaking painful to listen in. And usually I blend it out, but it was just so obnoxious. Like, I'm like, damn, we picked the wrong table. But we also picked the right table because it was observance. I'm observing reality like this. But it's like when conversation are really meaningless, and I'm not talking about shooting the shit meaningless. Like if you fuck around and you have fun and you just say a lot of like shit that makes no sense, that's beautiful. I'm speaking about conversations where you feel like 2 robots are speaking to one another and nothing's happening. There's no magnetism in the field. And it's just like, yes, and yesterday I did that. I had that coupon thing and I actually saved 10% on it. And it was really great because I was about to complain. But then when I got the coupon, I'm like, oh, this is really great. And you're like, yo, my homie, are you real? And you're just there like, I would freaking shoot myself if I was in a conversation like this. That's not her voice. That was 2 artificial voices having a convo. Like 2 robots having a convo. You can feel it. So when that is the case, or you feel yourself starting to talk about a lot of meaningless stuff that just doesn't need to be repeated in any way, shape, or form, check your voice. Check who's actually conversating right now. You also have that sometimes when you meet new people. Like I have that. I still, of course, catch myself sometimes when I meet someone and they are not resonating in their soul. Like sometimes my voice will match theirs, and then I have to be like, yo, wait, what is happening here? That's not me. So when that happens and I meet them at that level, I have to bring myself back. Like I have to breathe back in, and I have to be like, hold on, wait a minute. We're lost in a artificial dimension, and that doesn't feel good. Like anytime a conversation doesn't feel good, whether you're initiating it or the other person initiated, it doesn't matter. Anytime a conversation doesn't feel good, it's probably coming from an artificial voice. Because even like the shittiest, most painful conversations, they still feel good because they're real. Like I would get into fights with my man that are just like, whoa, but they feel good because they're real. And you can feel it. The moment something doesn't feel good anymore, like I can see myself in a fight when I start to go into trauma, there all of a sudden there just comes out this nasty voice that is just like shitting all over the room. And that's when I realized, okay, wait, this fight just turned from something needs to be transmuted into nonsense trauma. I have to remove myself. And this is when he removes himself too. So like things can get passionate and can get wild and still feel good because we're unpacking truth here. The moment something feels just nasty and weird, it's because something robotic came in or something that isn't connected with your core came in and just took over the convo. So you can detect it in these ways. Another one is when you are conversating, communicating from your core soul essence, every interaction will feel energizing. You will leave conversations more energized and more charged up. When you feel exhausted after a conversation, it's because some fake, distorted, artificial voice was having that conversation through you. It wasn't you. Your soul was kind of like on that, not even passenger seat. Your soul was in the trunk. And that artificial voice was steering the wheel. And your soul was like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why are we having this conversation? That's when it feels exhausting, right? Like anytime you're like, oh, I can't pick up the phone right now. Oh, like I don't have energy for this phone call. Well, it's probably not a conversation you should have then. Because usually when you speak to people and you speak from your core soul voice, regardless of where they are at, you will always feel recharged and energized. Nothing will ever feel exhausting. No interaction will ever feel exhausting if you are in your truth. That's why sometimes people are like, oh, wow, you do these 6-hour long QHHT sessions. Isn't that tiring? No, it isn't. Because at any point, I charge my field with the magnetism of my soul's voice. And if they are exhausting, I have to then look at myself where I might have slipped into something artificial. If your body isn't involved, that's a sign that you're not speaking from your core soul voice. Like if you're basically cutting off yourself and you just exist here in your body, you just don't feel it at all, there's a high chance that you do not speak from your soul's voice. Because your soul's voice includes your body. And I can give you examples from even YouTube videos that I'm making because I'm getting better and better and better at this. There are YouTube videos where, I still get a little nervous sometimes, but there's this thing of like, now we have this whole setup, Melissa. Alexander's gone. You have the space for yourself. You prepared this lesson. Let's record. And I will basically slip into a little bit of an artificial reality to get the video started. I'm aware of that, and I'm getting better and better and better at this. It's basically the entertainer version of me taking over, and it's like, hey, your nervousness that you're feeling, body, doesn't really matter right now. Let's get this going. And I'm not saying that this is always bad. We always do that from time to time, or I don't want to say that. We don't always do that from time to time. Maybe there are a lot of people who are just fucking raw at all times. So I take that back. But I still catch myself here and there. Or I catch myself again, like I said, in conversations. And this is a good way for you to detect that. I also have that with other people. Like if people meet me from that space, I will have to bring it back to truth. So also feel out how other people are approaching you. Sorry. I had a really big activation with a friend where we just didn't meet eye to eye, and there was a lot of things that we had to unpack on our own, and there was a lot of hurt involved. And the things weren't resolved. They were still in the field, and she sent me a voicemail for my birthday. And when I heard that voicemail, her truth would have been probably something like, yo, I'm still freaking angry with you. I love you, but I'm angry. And I wish you a freaking happy birthday because you deserve the world. But I'm angry at you and I love you. Bye. Right? Like, as simple as that. If she would have sent me that message, I would have been like, yo, I respect you. But there was a message instead that was very artificial. Very like, I thought about you a lot these days and I wish you the most beautiful day ahead and it's your birthday. And like that voice, we know that voice. Just know. And I couldn't respond to that. Or I had to then respond later with, yo, Holmes, let's bring this back to realness. Let's bring this back to what you're really feeling. Like, I appreciate it, but I don't because it's not real. So let's not act like all of these energetics aren't there when they are. And so anytime someone does that in my field, I will bring them back to truth over and over and over again. And for some people, it's this, again, they have a hard time noticing because maybe they surround themselves with similar people. Like, I noticed this voice in the coaching realm. Like, I don't know what the F that is, but I was going to actually join a masterclass. And to get into the masterclass, there was an introduction call that wasn't with the teacher itself, but with one of her coaches. And so I was on this call with her, and her voice was just so artificial that I then decided to, yo, if this is who she chooses to onboard the people, I don't really trust that person. And it was this whole like, yeah, I hear you. Okay, thank you, first of all, for being so vulnerable. First and foremost, thank you for that. And, it's really courageous of you to show up like that in a space so vulnerably. And I was like, yo, I can't do that. I can't do that. Especially not when it comes to like someone holding space for me. But I'm like, yo, what is this? And so, if you grow up, or that Valley Girl voice, that's like, sometimes we don't detect that this isn't our truth. Like, my man, he grew up in Rhode Island around fucking Italian mob. So he has this whole Gambino personality. And it's just so ingrained in him. It's not his truth. It's an aspect of his being, and I freaking adore it. But it's not his actual voice. So it took time, to like detect these things. So when you're in a surrounding where everyone all of a sudden communicates from that space, that really disconnected space, it can suck us back into that space as well. So I am very, like, I'm a Nazi when it comes to that. Like, I will bring people back into, like, I'm a truth Nazi. Like, come back. That ain't your heart, mama. Let's come back to your womb and your heart, because whatever space you're speaking from isn't real. So again, and with this coach, love to her, man. It wasn't, it probably was insecurity. Like, I did this many times in the past where when I had like calls 3-4 years ago, and I just wasn't in a space to hold space for people. Like, if you're going through your darkness, you're a woman that is healing, not a woman that is providing a healing space. You get the difference, right? So I, like 3-4 years ago, when I had my first like calls and one-on-one calls, there were moments where I felt inadequate, where I felt, whoa, this person is way more financially successful than I am, which at that time was literally everybody. I was sleeping on a mattress. So I was insecure, or that woman was in a marriage and had a child, and I was just going through a divorce or a toxic relationship. So I'm like, I can't assist you. Like, my inner being was like, I know who I really am at my core, but the current embodiment of me, it can't assist you. And I should have just said that. If I was in my truth, if I look back and I was in my actual truth, I would have just said that. I would have been like, yo, listen, I don't feel like I am actually the right person to move you through that portal right now. That would have been authentic, raw truth. But because I probably wanted to prove myself something, or because I wanted to like see that I can really do it, or I had to grow, I would slip into an artificial voice and maybe say something that sounded really wise, but it didn't hit because it wasn't my truth. Because my body was going through a moment of shit, like, she's financially successful and she has a marriage and a child. I don't think I can help that person. I don't think I'm the right like one to work with. But instead, I might have said something that I read somewhere or heard someone say or whatever. So, like, it's this, is what your body is experiencing what your words are communicating? And if it's not, it's because you're not in truth. And in that way, an artificial voice will come out. So how do we find our true voice? Our true voice comes out when no energy is left for artificial personalities. Our true voice will come out when there's no energy left for artificial personalities. Whether that is after shocking trauma, like sometimes if we go through such an immense shift in life and we're just being turned upside down and we're like, yo, I died. And I can't, like, I'm in such sadness. I do not have energy or the space to uphold anything that isn't me. So for me, I went through a lot of pain through a couple years that changed me and stripped me so much from anything artificial that the only way I could communicate was from vulnerability and rawness and realness. Now, it was sadness, but at least it was real. Like, I couldn't uphold a facade because I was in too much pain. My heart was broken. I couldn't speak from anything else besides that heartbreak. But that was a beautiful space because it was real and it was my actual voice. So sometimes that happens after someone passes, after our whole life is shattered into pieces, after we go through a massive transition, after a big breakup, or any transition, or after a big disappointment. So anytime an event happened that really shakes us to the core, this is usually when all personalities are lifted and you only have access to your true voice because you have no energy left to uphold anything that isn't real anymore. That also happens in different cycles of our day-to-day. Like, that's why I love late nights. That's why I love late night parking lot conversations, because we get to the raw, the real shit. Yeah, our conversations get realer and more vulnerable at night, right? Like anytime you chill with people, and in the beginning it's just all, everyone's dressed up and you're eating and you're having fun. But the later the night gets, the more people leave, and the ones who remain, you start like taking off your makeup, you're putting on like someone else's pajama and sweaters, and all of a sudden you're on the couch and you're just having these raw ass conversations, which is what your soul lives for. That's what your soul lives for. And that's also like a lot of times, and I'm sure you can relate, like maybe you've been in a toxic relationship, or just in a relationship where everyone around you was like, yo, why are you with that person? Like, what do you do with that person? That isn't your person. Why are you with that? Like, and you exactly knew why they would see that. It's because they only saw the fake personas of this person. Like throughout the day, anytime they met a fake version and a fake voice of that person. But you met the real version of them. Like the 3 a.m. at night when you're laying next to someone, there is no space for fakeness. That's the moment where you're meeting that soul's voice, that soul's essence, that true voice. And that's why this is so hurtful at times, because even if someone is in artificial like spaces and personalities all day, there will be a little glimpse, a little opening where they will share their truth. And this is what our soul lives for. So I had that definitely in past relationships where there was so much pain, so much toxicity poisoning for my heart. But there were these little glimpses where I'm like, but I see you. But I hear you. I hear that soul's voice of yours. So that's when that comes out. And that's true connection. So a lot of times, or when we see that in friends, where we're like, what is she doing with that man? Or what is he doing with her? Well, they probably met each other's soul. They probably heard each other's true voice at some point. And they keep up with the artificial BS because they hope for that true voice to once take over every part of their being. Now, that might not happen. So that's why I no longer am in these relationships. But just to like validate that you weren't dumb or you weren't crazy. You were maybe a little inexperienced, but you heard the voice of that person's truth. You've had moments with them where they revealed their actual core frequency and sound for you. And that's the moment where your souls recognized each other. Another one is also after sex. Like you will be able to tap into that true resonance of your voice when you're in your body. And so even oral sex, it truly opens your throat, and there is this deep connection between womb and throat. So if you are passionately making love for hours, you won't come out with the same voice. Your bedroom voice is actually your true, authentic resonance, right? So that is one. After a massive workout or after dancing, after yoga, like anything that moves you and puts you in your body, after a massage, like when you're relaxed, right? Think about the moments when you're most relaxed. How does your voice sound like? Your voice will aid the relaxation, but you can do it the other way around. You can actually talk and speak yourself into relaxation when you have access to your truth. Also within our yin phase, like right before we're bleeding or on the first day of our bleed, it's when we have very little energy left. And in these 2 days, your voice will be different. Listen to it. Give it attention. Your voice will have a different texture in your first day of the bleed, or when you're in your yin phase. That's why I love fasting, because fasting does exactly that. It leaves no energy for anything artificial. On your 4th or 5th day of a water fast, honey, weights will be lifted off of you. You will feel resurrected and reborn. Resurrected. Resurrected? Resurrected. You get it, like the Jesus thing. You will feel reborn. And it's because all of these artificial personalities that are like, give us energy, give us the voice. You don't have time for that, and you don't have energy for that anymore. Like when your body is like on the last reserves and just like healing itself, you don't have energy for anything artificial. So that's why I love fasting so much. Another one, of course, is plant medicine. I am all about super not careful, but honoring utilization of plant medicine. Like anytime I ever utilize plant medicine, it is with the utmost honor and reverence. And if in that space, created intentionally, created with volition and highest volition, these medicines have the ability to take you out of artificial realms and move you closer to the realm of your soul. Also, sickness. When your body is going through sickness, listen to how your body sounds. Listen to your voice. There's probably not much artificialness left when your body is going through sickness or illness. So now, of course, I don't wish sickness on you. Like I don't wish a deep fever on you so you can tap into your voice. That doesn't need to happen, right? It's just sometimes life forces us into these states because it's like, wake up to your true nature, because right now you're not in your truth. So I will probably make a part 2 because we're already 1.5 hours in almost. And this topic is really deep. And I'm deliberately going as deep because I want to entangle that, and I want to literally move this out of your field. And this only happens when we travel and journey into the deep spaces. So I'm sorry that the beginning was a little technical, but we needed that as the base foundation for true understanding. So play with your voice. There will be a part 2 of that where we go even deeper into the how and how can I explore more, how can I play more with my voice. But for now, just observe. Just observe. There were so many pointers in this session today. You'll untangle a lot with that. So I love you so much. From my true voice, I love you. And I see you. And real recognizes real. And soul recognizes soul. So speak from your soul and watch what will happen to your surrounding, the people you attract, the beauty you attract. Because that's the only way the Empress truly communicates.